And this recording will be only available within the bootcamp course for those enrolled. And once the bootcamp is over, we'll delete the recordings. Right, Nicole?
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Nicole again. Nice to see all of you. And I wanted to lead us through a mindful breathing exercise for, I'll cut it a little short, maybe about 3 minutes. I'm going to talk through the first minute of it just to guide you folks, make sure you're staying within it. And then for 2 minutes, we'll be quiet. And I wanted to talk a little bit about wellness and why it's important in a virtual classroom and how you can implement it. And finally, I'll open it up to the floor if anyone has any questions or thoughts. I wanted to do a mindful breathing exercise with you folks to have us all connect on a deeper level via Zoom, so we don't have to talk to each other or look at each other. It's just a moment in this workshop to just take a deep breath and just be as we are. And it also helps us to get into the right mindset for this workshop so that we can absorb as much information as we can and be ready to learn. So I'd like you folks to just prepare by, you can loosen up your arms, your legs if you're sitting. You can continue taking deep breaths if you'd like. I hope that was helpful. It's nice to take a moment in our days to stop and just focus on that. That seems so simple and sometimes meaningless, but we take it for granted, the fact that we can just breathe in and out every day and it allows us to do everything that we need to. So now I'm going to switch over to wellness. Let me pull up a site that I came across. I wanted to share this with you folks. Let me go back up. California State University, they released this site, this webpage that's called Wellness in the Virtual Classroom Toolkit. Let me drop the link in the chat because I don't think it's on Laulima. So that's the link if you folks want to check it out in your free time. But this is ways for professors and faculty to support wellness in an online space, because it seems like it would be a difficult thing to do. You know, if you never see your students in person, you don't really see them very much over Zoom. It might be hard to connect with them and they might be struggling in your course. So it's always good to just reach out and make sure that they're doing well. So this site just talks a little bit about why wellness is important in a classroom setting. And it can be done in a virtual setting, which is great. So there's tips about self-care. This is also applicable to yourself. So if you find that you're getting stressed out because of work or maybe dealing with students, it's helpful to apply these techniques to yourself. But you can always inspire your students to do the same for themselves. So like the activity we just did, that's an example of something that you could do in your own course. Say you have a synchronous course, you folks meet twice a week via Zoom. You could always do that at the beginning of every session. It doesn't have to be long. It's just a quick way for them to center themselves and get focused for the class. There's other things about reaching out to your students proactively, just checking in on them, pretty much on their mental health, more than just, it's always recommended, right, to check in with them on assignments and how they're doing academically. But research has shown that students are much more than just containers that we put information into. They have so much other factors going on in their lives that definitely affect how well they learn. So if you can help them a bit with that part of themselves, then it helps. If they're aware of any problems that they're having, or even if things are going well, then their learning will thrive. That's the site. I'm going to stop sharing now. And if anyone has any questions or comments about wellness, how it's applied in education, both in person and online, or meditation, do you do that in your own time? I just thought it's related to my practice, not my practice, but my discipline for college right now. So I thought it would be interesting to include it.
Great, thank you. It's something that, you know, it can feel uncomfortable to take a silent, you know, especially as an instructor, or in this case, as a presenter, you feel like you should be talking the whole time, you know, and you can do that as a lecturer too, but it really is, it really is a nice moment to kind of just take a breath, get recentered and more relaxed. And so I appreciate those tips, Nicole. And yeah, faculty and students alike could benefit from that very much. So thank you. We'll resume our presentation now. And I think one of the first things that I wanted to talk about is related to the one of the first tasks in Unit 1. So Nicole, if you want to share the slides again. So the first, one of the first things we're going to have you do is it's really take the first small step toward your sort of capstone task, which is going to be to create a full lesson. And so we have provided several templates. They all have slightly different styles, so you get to pick, which one you want to use, or you could, choose one of your own, just plain, without anything added. But when I say style, is literally like color, fonts, font sizes, look. You'll see, and we'll show, you'll be able to pick one. But all you have to do for this unit, you don't have to start, messing with it except for just to create it and get it ready. And so you may have noticed that we enrolled you into 2 different Laulima sites. One, if Nicole, if you could just jump over to them, just so we can just see them. The first one is the actual bootcamp itself, which it's the site is CSS OTB 2022, and it is created from a template. A lot of you have probably seen various templates and so on, but this is we're using the template, but it's also where your actual information is. So we have 4 of these synchronous sessions, but the bulk of our information is on the Laulima site. So it's hopefully pretty clear for what you're going to be doing. But the first little task is to create your lesson placeholder page using the Laulima Lessons tool. And so if you're not familiar with the Lessons tool, it's one of Laulima's tools that allows you to put everything you need for like 1 week's worth of the class into one basic page. Might have subpages or link out to other things, but Nicole, you want to just link up? So the other site you were put into was this called the Hive Mind Site, and this is where this is like a playground, if you call it a sandbox, or just somewhere to just learn, and practice, basically. So since you will be creating one lesson, this is the place where you'll be creating it, and you can just play around. Don't worry about failing at anything. So you'll come to this landing page where it just has a welcome, but the Unit 1 Task 1 instructions are right there, but they're also in Unit 1, so they're in both places. But there's a step-by-step, we're not going to go through that today, but there's also a brief video where I show you. But basically, you can see over to the side, you have all, in this site, you'll have all instructor roles, so you'll have all the editing capabilities that you would as an instructor in your own course. And so we have a variety, I would say, of lesson templates on the side, and you can click on them and look at them, and then you'll then create your own following those instructions, and those will appear down at the very bottom. So Jody and I have done that, and there's nothing, it's just the template in there right now. So it's just, that's all you have to do for Unit 1 is just get your templated lesson set up. And if you scroll back up to the top, Nicole, let's see. Yeah, and the big task is the last one. So there's information in there, but there's also past examples of lessons. So you can see some from the past boot camps, and we'll be going into this a little bit more, but if you want to see like what some other participants have created, it's always useful to see things like that. So we do promote the use of this kind of template. This has evolved, and this has been customized for College of Social Sciences in several ways, but it all springs from, so the UH system created a template, and that's kind of where some of this sprang from. It's been modified, and that's really what a template is. It's a starting place to kind of jumpstart you. You don't have to worry about a lot of things, and it's got built-in quality items that have been shown to increase student success, such as a checklist and other things that help keep everything organized in one place. And so that's the reason that we do promote it all the time. It helps shortcut your development. It also helps guide you a little bit in what good design is, and kind of hit some of those quality checklist criteria all in one. So I think, let's see, back on the slides, we have some screenshots of a couple of lessons. So when you get like your empty lesson shell from Banner, so that screenshot on the far left, the first one on the left, is just kind of plain. It has the overview, announcements, those are the only tools it comes with, and so it doesn't come with lessons. In a lot of courses in the past, several years back, almost everyone was just putting all the course materials under resources, and it's a place to hold content, but the lessons tool kind of expands, like, what is a course? What is an online course? It's not just a collection of resources. It should be more of an experience. It should have activities. It should have engagement. And so that's what the lessons tool can help you build into your course. And so then there's a couple of other examples of after lessons have been added. You can see on the one on the right, it's got week 1, week 2, week 3, and so on. Those were all created with the lessons tool. And then the one in the middle also, it could be, it doesn't have to be week 1, week 2, it could be units. It could, it could be by topic or theme. It's just a way to organize everything. But ideally, the students will have everything they need. It could be, if you have quizzes, if you have assignments they need to turn in, if you have a forum discussion, they can easily find what they need to be doing for that week of the course. And so it helps build in that and helps boost their success as well, so they don't have the overhead of trying to figure all that out. So that's the kind of the reason why that you'll be using a template to do this. But there's no requirement to do that. But it's if you haven't ever seen some lessons created that way, it can show that Laulima doesn't have to be such a boring tool that everyone hates, or at least was in a few years back. So, all right. Okay, so we're going to take just a quick break, and then we're going to come back, and Nicole is going to talk about Flip and Padlet tools. And so the reason we're including those two tools, I mean, tools like that come and go over the years, right? There's no one great tool. It's always about what are you using the tool for? Why are you using it? What is the purpose of that? And so we'll show you the basics of how to get it set up, but it's up to you to get creative and try to think of some best uses. And sometimes that's hard to do without seeing examples. And so Monisha Das Gupta is going to come and show some of her course, so that might inspire you as well. So we'll set a timer just for 5 minutes. You can turn off your camera, stretch, or whatever. But it's a short break, but when we come back, we'll see Nicole demo these tools. If you would like to just sit here, and if you have any questions, we'll be here too. So I'm going to just take a 1-minute walk around my desk and come back.
Nicole,
on.
could I ask you a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry to interrupt. I was just curious, so on the Hive Mind site,
Yes.
Laulima site, there's so along the left side menu, there are various templates, and then it looks like a list of 12 different departments or subjects: anthropology, communications, economics, ethnic studies. I was just curious what that is for.
Yes, we're gonna point that out, I think, in unit 4, but
okay.
Yes, no, it's good to ask about that already, because it's pretty much just like a fancy looking version of the lesson template, because the lesson template is it's very simple, but it has all the information you need, like spaces for different things like an introduction or posting a video. So it looks the same. I mean, it has the same content, but it has like an overlay on it where it looks fancy. So what I did was, part of my job in the past month was to make a design for each that's kind of specific to each department, in case any faculty is from that specific department, they can use it for their course. So
that's cool. Yeah,
cool. So it's just a whole bunch of designs pretty much.
That's good to know. I was just browsing around looking, trying to figure out what, and I was just like, oh, is that what we're supposed to do already. I was like, oh my God, I don't know. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no, well, actually, yeah, absolutely. It's not too hard. So yeah, in unit 4, I wanted to bring up, I'm probably gonna make a little presentation or something on Laulima on how to do that yourself. So first of all, like those are already created, right? So you folks can use them. So all you do is like, I'm gonna show you folks how to put it onto your own lesson page, because when you make your lesson page, it'll be the default one. But there is a way to, like, you know, edit the image, edit the font and the color and everything, and it's not too difficult. It's pretty interesting. So I'll probably include info about that. Yeah, and it's completely optional. Like in your own lesson courses, you can always use the default design, but if you decide you want to make it fancy, you can.
Yeah, no, I really like the template. So like when we had to pivot online, like when it was in March 2020,
Yeah.
I immediately started using the templates that were available. So I'm familiar with the templates, but I kind of lost the thread a little this semester because now I'm back in person. And I realized that I wish I had, and maybe it's not too late, I don't know, but I wish I still had the look of those templates, but I don't want all the lessons. But it seems like you either have to choose an 8 or 16 week model, right? You can you just get the look, but not have the lessons and tools and all that?
Yes, in fact, that's one of the modifications that I made for College of Social Sciences was, instead of like the 16 weeks, I just create one lesson, and then I give you a little screencast to say how to replicate that one. And what I always recommend, just from a approach of developing something, would be to take that one, replicate it, so you have the original, then create your lesson like you want it. Like maybe you want the checklist way at the bottom. You can do a few things to it, like if you don't want this area, that area. And then when you have your 1 week's worth that's, you know, pretty good and you like it, you like the flow, then you replicate that one. Then you don't have to edit like the template each time. So because otherwise with the 16 weeks, every one is a blank template with a lot of extra stuff you have to delete. So trying to streamline the workflow as well as provide the template. So if you want one, I can help you. You know, I can set a development site up for you, and with it in there, and you can take it and do whatever you want after that.
Oh, that'd be great. Maybe I can talk to you about that separately. I'd love that. What I did this semester, it's kind of stupid, I think, of me, but because it was labor intensive, but I just went and I just imported like stuff from my last class or whatever, and just kind of then deleted a bunch of stuff. But it took me a long time.
It takes a long time to do it from scratch. But once you've got it, then you know it's easier the next iteration, next time. But yeah, there's no one perfect way, and we're all pressed for time. You know, it's always the issue. If we had oodles of time, we could do this or that. You know, that's always my problem. But
well, I think the templates look really good, and I think they maybe are better for accessibility reasons as well.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I'll email you to ask if we could do a development. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Good. All right. Well, I think my timer is about to go off, so I think we can move on, Nicole, and we'll look forward to seeing what you want to show us.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I'm gonna give a little bit of time. Yeah, we're pretty much on time right now. Is it okay if we wait about a minute? Because it looks like half of us are away.
Yeah, sure. Okay. All right, here we go.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I hope you folks enjoyed your break. It helped a bit. Oh, Laura, nice baby.
Aww.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and share the slides. So now we're gonna talk about Flip and Padlet. So Flip used to be known as Flipgrid, and then Padlet is another tool. They're both educational technology tools that are to complement or supplement students' learning. It just makes it a little more enjoyable and fun for them. And I feel like they're both tools that could be used for any discipline. So it's very versatile. And so I'll start with Flip. Flip they're formerly known as Flipgrid. They underwent a marketing change about a month ago. So when I talk about Flip, I'm talking about Flipgrid. Flip is very special because it has a selfie style video format, which is very popular with, I'd say, 18 to 25-year-olds that are adolescents that are going to college currently, because it's just a common mode of communication where students are used to doing that in their daily lives for social media. So incorporating it into education is a great way to engage students and make them excited about learning. I find this flip is very useful for introductions so like say you're teaching an asynchronous course and you folks never meet during the semester. It helps to humanize the course by having a flip discussion at the beginning of the semester so that everyone can post a short video about themselves, just like ours. So we have a flip introduction group that we created for this bootcamp specifically. If you folks haven't gone to it yet, please go ahead and post on it. All you need to do is post a short video of yourself talking about just little details about yourself, what department you're in, your name, a fun fact about yourself. And that's an example of being the student in the student's perspective, and you're able to post to someone else's flip. But right now I'm going to show you folks how to create a flip group and a topic as if you're the instructor. I'm going to share my screen for, let me go back. So I've already signed into Flip, and if you folks have not done so already, all you do is you go to admin.flip.com up here, and you sign in with Google and with your Hawaii.edu account. And if there's any personal questions, you answer that, and then your account is finalized.
Nicole, I just wanted to mention where we're asking you to do your introductions. We provide you with a flip link. You're experiencing that like a student. So you would just use the link and then sign in with Google, and you can post your response. So for the task in the certification task, you're going to create a Flipgrid assignment for your future class or current class. And so that's when you would use this admin one. You would set up a educator account with Flip, which is free. It's approved for use from University of Hawaii data governance. So I just want to distinguish between those two flip assignments, I guess.
Yes, the certification task is you sign into Flip and you create your own activity. So I'm just going to show you folks the logistics on how to create a flip itself, and then it's up to you to come up with the activity or discussion idea. So once you're signed in, this is your dashboard. If you have had any flip groups that you've created or joined, it'll be here. You click on this plus group button in the top right, and then click on create a group. And you'll go through a few questions. This is for a classroom. You can click on university and then next. And then you can include a title, like I'll put in, I already had OTB basics test group. You can change the theme if you'd like. There's many different fun looking pictures that they have. And then for sharing the flip to others, you have two options. You can share a link, which is pretty straightforward. You just get a link that leads straight to this. You can embed it into Laulima, or you can put it in an email, and then students will click on it. They'll sign in with their Hawaii.edu account, and then they'll post a video. Another way is to select only people you approve, meaning you get an email every time students request access. So it takes a little longer, but if you want to filter out your students, you could do it that way. I recommend doing anyone with the link. So I'll click on create group. And now I have a group. That's the sharing link. You can always access this later. So I'll close this out. And now you can see all of the topics. I wanted to point out there's a difference between a group and a topic. So kind of like forums in Laulima, it nests within itself. So for a flip group, you would usually create that for your class. So say you're teaching 3 courses, you'd probably have 3 separate. If you want to use Flip for all of them, you would have a Flip group per course. So it contains the students for that course and then any topics. The topics would usually be for an introduction week, or it would be for weekly discussion. So say you had a weekly discussion, you'd have 14 to 15 topics within this one group for this course. That's how that works. So here it already gives you a topic. I'm going to just add a topic here to show you folks. It's kind of similar, the settings. Let's say I'll just say week 1 introductions. And then a description about yourself. If you want to include any sort of media that they need to access before answering, then you can. If you want to put an image or video here, you can in the description. And then Flip is video based. So students respond by posting a video of themselves talking. And you can adjust how much time they have. It's as short as 15 seconds all the way up to 10 minutes. So depending on what you're using your Flip topics for, you can choose the time. Because this is an introduction, I'll keep it to 1 minute and 30 seconds. And now that I posted it, I have a sharing link here, and that can be embedded in Laulima as well, put in an email. So it leads straight to this. So now we're in the topic itself. If we want to go back to the group to see all of our topics, we click on the title of the group up here, and we can see a list of topics. And if we want to go back to all of our groups, if we have more than one course, then we click on groups and we're back here. So that's how you navigate through Flip. I'd like to pause here for a moment. I might jump to Laulima in a second, but does anyone have any questions? Okay, I'm gonna continue then. Let me look at, actually, let me stop sharing for a second. I'm going to go to Laulima. So in the OTB site, I'm gonna just practice showing you folks how to embed a Flip group or a topic if the settings are the same. So say you're in a lessons page, this is a lesson page, right? And I think actually, no, sorry, I'm gonna go to the Hive Mind site because we have permissions there to play around with it as if we're instructors. I'm gonna go to a past lesson. And this leads me to a lesson page. So I have a lesson page open and say I want to embed a Flip group that I've created. So you always have to create the Flip group or topic first. You can click on add content up here and embed content on the page. So the cool thing about embedding, you can embed both Flip and Padlet into Laulima. It just makes it really easy for the students to access. For Flip, they have to sign in first, but they can access the content straight from the lesson page, so it's very convenient. So I'm gonna go back and copy the link for this group. So if I want to copy the link, I've already created the group. I click on it. Let me go back. Click on the group of my choice and click on this button in the top right. It says share. It's a partial box with an arrow. This will give me the link again. So I'm gonna copy that. Go back to Laulima and paste that in. Save that and click on try other alternative. This will embed it. Okay, and it's Laulima is gonna automatically reload with it at the bottom.
Sorry, Nicole, why did you choose
Yeah.
another alternative? Why did you have to do that as opposed to just putting the link in and
Save? Yeah, so it's a Laura, maybe you might be able to explain more about it, but for me, just like testing it out, all I thought was like I'm gonna just click save and save again. What happens is it just puts the link. I don't know if there's any reasoning behind that.
Yeah, there's behind the scenes coding and Laulima's limitations. It's one of these quirky things, but this happens also for other things you might embed, or if you want to embed a Google Doc. If you ever see that, click save, but then if you see the save as alternative, whatever that's, I forgot the exact phrase, alternative, click that one because that will make it work. So there's a lot of things I've heard people try, like I couldn't get it to work. I couldn't embed my Google Doc. I couldn't embed this. It's because of that weird quirk that it says save as alternative or something. You have to click that one. And then it works.
That's such
Magic.
good information. That's happened to me all the time. I didn't know how to. So it's the difference between putting the actual content versus just a link, right?
Yes.
Like URL. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I just wanted to show you folks what Flip looks like when it's in here. So it looks really cool if you can see all of your topics lined up, and it just makes it really easy for students to access.
And also, so you embedded the group. You can also embed directly to one topic. So like if you ask them, you can ask them to read this article, and then right below it, you can have like a topic discussion at the topic level. So you can get a link just for that topic. And then in the Laulima page, you'll start seeing all the little thumbnail, faces appear as people populate the discussion. It's really neat because you can see it's like content that's living because it's being added to and students are generating the content. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
And you can add it. It's adding it to the bottom right now, but this is getting kind of ahead of the game because we're not trying to teach Laulima right now, but just as little tips that you can, if you know exactly where, so like somewhere down in your content, you've got an article or you wanted them to watch this video and then reflect on it, you can specifically put that, right in that by using that plus, but just further down below wherever you want it to appear. Anyway, just as an aside.
Yeah, that's a feature tip. Yes. When you click on any lesson page, you click on add content straight from here, it'll always go to the bottom. But if you know exactly where you want to put it, you choose the item that's below, because you see how it says add new item above. So choose the item that you want below and then press the plus, it'll show up there. So let me go back to the slides. I think we're about wrapped up for Flip. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, I'm gonna continue on. Let me go to Padlet now. So Padlet's cool because it's multimedia. There's many different things that you can put on a Padlet, and it has a very nice design. It's very useful for weekly discussions. It also works for introductions if you want students to post a video of themselves, a picture of their dog, a little text about their life. You can do anything like that. And it's very easy to navigate. So I'm gonna share my screen with you folks so that we can look at a little bit about how to create a Padlet, adjusting privacy settings, and then I'll show you folks a few Padlets that we've created in the past so you can get an idea of what it looks like. Let me make sure I'm on the right window. Okay. So actually, since we're here already, we chose this this past lesson, because you can see a Padlet already embedded here. So to save us a little time, I won't show you folks how to embed a Padlet. It's basically the same steps, but with the Padlet link. And that's what it looks like when it's in your lesson page. So let me just. Sorry, I have to make this window smaller because I can't see. I can't see my tabs. All right. I'm going to show you folks first the ones that are already created. So Laura pointed out two two Padlets that she already had. This one was about icebreakers. Originally in past boot camps, we had participants add an icebreaker to this big Padlet. And then this is another Padlet that just is a collection of resources related to online teaching. So quickly, I'll just point this out to you folks. This is pretty much a text one. Here's one image, but you could just use it as text where everyone's just putting text responses. Here's a link. So it looks pretty nice. It's like Tetris. It's all fitting together well. You can also change the color of responses. So let me go back to this one. This one has, you can see a lot of links, a lot of videos. So it's also very clean, and it loads well. Even though it gets crowded, it doesn't get too laggy, which is nice. So this is a great way. This is an example of where you can have students maybe gather resources for an essay project or something. So now I'm gonna go back into Padlet. I've already signed into Padlet. So Padlet's a little different from Flip because you have to request access from Laura first. Laura can give you a CSS Padlet account because there's padlet.com, there's just regular Padlet, and then there's our own CSS Padlet. So you would sign in using that site instead. And the difference is that if you sign in with padlet.com, you can only create 3 Padlets at a time. Whereas with a social sciences Padlet, you can create unlimited Padlets for your entire semester. Larger. Okay. So I'm going to, let's see. This is my dashboard. I'm going to go ahead and make a Padlet, show you folks the settings for that, and see if anyone has any questions at the end. So I'll click on make a Padlet here. There's a few different options for how you want to set it up. I've had a course before with a map, which is really cool. If you want a real-time map, maybe for like an ethnic studies course, you could have students pinpoint places they've been or places they want to go, places they're from. That's a nice way to engage students. You could also use a timeline if you'd like. But the most common one is a wall. So I'm going to click on that, where students just, their responses proliferate and it moves to the side. I believe the oldest response goes all the way to the right and to the bottom. So it just keeps adding and moving as students respond. So it sets you up already with a background and a name. You can always adjust this. And the description. You can add an icon to make it a little fun. If it's related to your course, you can always do that. There's a sharing link. You can always access this later. The wallpapers are really gorgeous. There's many different options. You can also add your own image if you'd like. and the font can also be changed. So there's a few other settings here if you want to look at that in your free time. I'm going to click on next and it just concludes it. You can start posting. So it's good practice for faculty to put the first post to give students an idea of what to do. It could be an example post, or it could just be an introduction with your video or whatever you'd want to include in the Padlet. I'm going to show you folks the settings now. So the Padlet is empty right now. Only you can access it. That's a problem because you need your students to see it. So under your profile picture, you'll see this arrow pointing to the right. That's the share button. When you click on that, you can adjust the privacy settings. This has to be done for every Padlet that you create. So you can click on change privacy here. And in order to open it up to students, you can click on secret. Secret is kind of like unlisted in YouTube, where you can share a link out to students and they can access it, but they can't search for it. So it has some level of privacy. And after that, you want to adjust the visitor permissions to can write. Can read means they can only see others, they can't add anything. Can edit allows them to have full control where they can edit others. So you want it to just be at write. And click on save. And once you're done with that, then you're pretty much complete. I'll point out what it looks like when you add a post. You can click on the plus that turns into a pencil at the bottom right. You can add a subject.
I wanted to also just say that Nicole created a nice getting started guide that captures all of this. And when you request your Padlet account for me, I link to that, but we also have it linked in our announcement and in the other places in the course as well. So thank you for creating that getting started guide, Nicole.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. I just wanted to show you folks, you can change the color of your posts, text, subject. If you want to click on this 3 dots here, you can see different options for what you can share. There's a lot of things that you could include to spice up your response, as well as you can let students know that if they haven't used Padlet before. And you just click on publish and that's it, and it moves along. So it's very clean. When you embed this into Laulima, what's great is it shows up in real time, just like Flip. So you can edit responses from there. You can delete them. It's very nice. The last thing I want to point out before I check if anyone has questions is that if students don't sign in they might access the Laulima version. They might access the Padlet you've created embedded in Laulima, and they don't sign in, their responses will show up as anonymous. They also might not have a CSS Padlet account. So they might be signing in without a CSS Padlet account and still responding, but their name won't show up. So in that case, you want students to put their name somewhere in their posts if you're assigning participation points or if it's important for you to know who posted what. I'm going to
Nicole, can you show that icebreaker one again? So that's an example where they can. So some students already had Padlet accounts and some didn't, but it's an issue with the way the paid version of the Padlet interacts with others that are not don't have Padlet accounts and so on. So it's always just a good practice anyway to, when you have your instructions for everyone, can you go up to the instructions and see what the instructions exactly say here? So it doesn't say this. So this should have said to please add your name, to the, I think it said it in the other, in the course, but it should always be right there on the Padlet ideally as well. So you put so when you create your assignment and you create your Padlet, you can use that subtitle line to put your instructions that you would probably also have in your, other places, but you can also put the reminder to make sure you add your name somewhere on the post so that you can always be sure of who posted. And one setting, so if you scroll down just a little bit, you can see that this allows for comments back and also upvotes, or you can also set those to be like, if you want to star or heart something, you can turn those off, but you can also, you have to explicitly turn on commenting, and that's on one of the settings on the side. So when you're going in and you're setting up your Padlet and changing that security level to secret and all that other stuff right here, so there's a little slider, it's defaulted to no comments. So it's usually more common to want everybody to comment on each other's posts, but you may have an activity where you don't want that. So it's that slider can toggle both ways.
Okay, thanks, Laura. I'm gonna go back to sharing the slides. Does anyone have any questions about Padlet?
Yeah, hey, thanks for sharing that. Had maybe a couple questions on Padlet. So I'm using the forums page for weekly postings and responses to students, so I could use this most likely. But so am using participation points for that. So I'm not sure how Padlet organizes itself. Is it based off timeline, based off of likes, it moves up, something like that? Could you touch on that? And then would there be a way, I guess they might have to have accounts to actually track participation points automatically, otherwise I'd have to manually go through it. I don't know if you can talk to those two things. One was, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm not sure about the upvoting and you know how, if it, you know, I don't think it rearranges. I don't think it's that sophisticated, at least at this point. That may be like a future thing they have, but yeah, there is no like integration like to the grade book or anything like that. But what I found is faculty have like their different tips and tricks that they do some sort of holistic, you know, it depends on how big your class is and how much, you know, if the smaller class is easier to track, that kind of thing. But that would be a perfect question for our guest speakers, should be here like any second, because Monisha has used it extensively. Has anybody here already done Padlet for discussions, and how did you keep track of that or grade that, if anybody here has done that? Yeah, a lot of it has to do with class size. You know, like if you have 20 or below, it's fairly easy to manually scan and find everybody's names and so on. But if you had, obviously, if you had like 80 students, 90 students, it would get, I would say at that point, you might have groups, you know, and you could even have a separate Padlet for each group and have like a smaller discussion. That doesn't help with the grading factor, but having obviously having a TA to help with that kind of thing, you know, the tracking of a large number of students, that kind of thing, could help. So yeah, there's no easy solution at this time for Padlet, but hopefully as they grow and always improve, maybe there'll be some better ways or easier ways to do that as far as that kind of analytics part.
Okay, thanks. And then did you say that you mentioned CSS and Padlet for the various accounts? What type of account would they need just to post within the lessons page to respond to it?
None.
Nothing. Okay.
Right. So so all they need is the link, and they don't have to do anything. You know, it may prompt them, and if it does, they would just choose like Flipgrid. Like sometimes it'll say log in with create an account, log in with Facebook, log in with Google, you know, you'll see all these tools do the same sort of thing. So when they go in, they just choose the Google, sign in with Google, and they use their Hawaii account. But that doesn't mean it's still not going to show as anonymous. And this is like a weird, like a glitch that none of us like, because we always wanted the students' names to appear when, you know, not have to type their name in. But the UH system looked into purchasing Padlet system-wide during the right at the start of the pandemic, and Padlet could never give them a solution that worked that way. So the only thing I've ever seen that actually works that way is if the instructor on each Padlet adds the student explicitly. There's a on each Padlet, there's a place where you can actually add a user, but they have to have already been added to the wider CSS account. So if you want to do that, if it's like, this is really important, I really want the students' names to appear, and it's not like 100 students, if it's a manageable number, you can request and send me a list of their names, and then we can put them in, and then they're in. So then they would log in through that, and not just, but it's just usually simpler for a student, just click a link, not worry about signing in or anything like that. It's just the weird issue of the whole anonymous thing, which, I mean, if you may have an activity where you want it to be anonymous for some reason. I've seen some faculty design things that it's their opinion, but nobody needs to know who it was, and that could have its own benefits in certain situations. So Any other questions about Padlet or trying to think. The shelf. So Nicole showed you the wall, but there's one of the layouts is called the shelf, and it makes different, like it's different columns and categories. So I've seen faculty use that for a couple of things, for like a group team type activity. So if you had 4 groups in the course, so the first column you put the label at the top, group 1, group 2, 3, 4, and then they as a team would come up with whatever the presentation might be, I don't know, and then the 4 teams would post, and that's like a way of sharing like a group project. I've also seen where faculty will use that same approach with discussion leaders for, she'll have like 3 discussion leaders each week, and there's 3 columns, and then the discussion leader will post prompts, we'll come up with the discussion prompts and actually sort of moderate that discussion and respond to the students, and then each week that the leaders shift and so on. So it's, the possibilities are endless. There's a lot of sites out there and videos like Padlet examples for activities and things like that. So I think Monisha is due to be here, but right about now, but I just see she's going to be cut 2 minutes late or something. So if we want, we could maybe jump ahead and start covering some of our final reminders and things while we're waiting just a couple of minutes, just so we can give her the maximum amount of time, maybe. If you want to pull up that.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay. That's our slide. Okay, there you go.
Perfect. Maybe a little wrap up about the resources that you have in Unit 1. First of all, in every unit, you have a video tutorial, and we are showing you all the resources and all the objectives of the unit and all the steps and tasks that you have to do. And in Unit 1, you have basically 3 assignments. The first one is related to the creation of your own placeholder page in the Hive Mind. So in this Unit 1, we just need the creation of that lesson. But if you want, you can go there and start creating your lesson. But for the certification, the only thing we need now is just to create your lesson. The second task is to use the flip. You have 2 tasks there. The first one is to create your introduction, but then you have to prepare this topic that later you can use in your own lesson. And the third task is the Padlet. You have to create this discussion in the Padlet, and then again, later in the bootcamp, you can use this Padlet and embed it in your lesson. So some things that are important is that this Unit 1 task, the due date is on September 2nd, that is on Friday. But then again, if you have any trouble with that date, if you have any trouble with the synchronous session, please send us a message and maybe we can together figure out what we can do with that. Also, after you finish every task in Unit 1, you have to go to a document that is named Basic Certification Checklist. You have to put there and let us know that you finished the task. And this is for us to follow your progress. And in that way, we can know that you're ready to receive some feedback. And finally, at the end of every unit, you will have a survey that you have to fill. And also we have an important space for questions. So let us know if you have any trouble. We are going to be checking this space for questions daily. So please just feel free to ask anything, and any trouble, you have any trouble, just let us know. And maybe a little bit of information about Unit 2, just a hint of what you're going to find in Unit 2. Unit 2 is all about student engagement. And you will find many resources in Unit 2 about doing that, engaging your students. But one very powerful tool that you have is videos. the screencast tutorials and videos. So in Unit 2, you will have the opportunity to create your own screencast tutorial. You are going to upload that in your own YouTube channel, and then you are going to edit the closed captions. So that is what you're going to do in Unit 2. Unit 2 finishes next week in September 7th. And that day is very important because on September 7th, we are having our third synchronous session. And for that Unit 2, the certification task will take place live. So try to attend that session. And if you cannot go on Wednesday, please send us a message and maybe we can think, other way to do this. I don't know, Laura, if you can add something, or Nicole, maybe I'm forgetting something.
No, that's a great overview of where we are and what's to come. And I see that Monisha Das Gupta is here. Yay. Welcome. We just got finished talking about Padlet, and we had a great question from our audience about like how to grade such a thing. So I thought that you could probably address that, but go ahead and do a show and tell first, and first introduce yourself. Sorry about that. Yeah, please introduce yourself to everyone, and then you can just launch into your demo, and then we should have room for questions. Oh, you're on mute. Okay.
Thank you. I'm back to in-person teaching, Laura, so muting and unmuting is not an issue. Great to see all of you, and thank you, Laura, for inviting me. I am faculty in ethnic studies and women, gender, and sexuality studies. And thanks to the trainings that I've attended with Laura, I have had great experience with the Padlet. And I wanted to demo like 3 kinds of assignments that I do. So one would be, where the students are just sort of working individually and they're posting on the Padlet individually on their own time. The second is when they do group work and then they work on their Padlets in a group. And the third is something that we did interactive in class. So, unfortunately, I don't have a copy of that Padlet because it was created by the student, but I do have a screenshot that I'm hoping to share with you. So let me, just start with the individual work where people are sort of individually posting. And that would be, I need to share my screen. So I did this assignment. I set this assignment, and the way in which I set these assignments is that I work on a Google Doc that I share with the class. So, I sort of, in order to vet their work. So this assignment was, a message to farm workers on Farm Workers, National Day. And they had to come up with a visual and a tiny narrative and then post on their social media. And this wasn't something like, we didn't create a hashtag for our class or anything. So I wanted the class to see each other's work, right? I mean, even though they posted it on the Padlet and I give them feedback, sometimes they're a little off, or sometimes they're like very unsure about, like, for example, this one, they were like, can I just do something like this? And I was like, yes, this is great. And at other times, they would actually not generate their own material. They would try to get somebody else's work. So what is great about Padlet is that you encourage students to generate their own material and to be as creative as possible. So once they did the Google work and I vetted, what they had to say and their message, then I asked them to post it on social media. And then they, I shared the Padlet and they posted on the Padlet. And I actually gave them a little bit of a grade for coming and visiting and leaving a message, whichever one whatever grabbed them. So as you will see, like, there are little messages and from their classmates. So they're engaging with each other's work. And I did this when I was teaching asynchronously. That is, one type of assignment. Another type of assignment, let me see, this says login to, let me go to my Laulima. This is a Padlet that was created for an introductory class, and this was group work. So again, step one for this kind of assignment was creating a shared Google Doc, and each group had its own Google Doc shared with me. I assigned them, an archive of videos. They could choose whoever they wanted to, whoever they were attracted to as a feminist warrior. And there was transcripts and videos that they could read through, and then they would generate content. So part of it was, they engaged with the online materials, they engaged with the transcript, and then they found their own images because those things didn't come with transcripts. So they found their own images and they went a step further and also, sort of said, hey, how is this feminist influencing work, going forward? So, they found their own, they did their own research. And for example, they found Barbara Ransby's book, and they found archival material of Barbara Ransby when she was at the University of Michigan. So, it was something that they just got fired up about. And my role in that is, giving them very clear directions, very clear prompts, to which they answer. I vet the material, and then they start to translate it with the images and the text onto the Padlet. So this is sort of group work that they did. I'm going to stop here if you wanted to ask any questions, and I can go to this other in-class activity. In the class.
Dan, did you want to ask about your question that you asked right before?
Sure, it makes sense for groups, and we discussed that, I guess. But I mean, if I was doing something like this every week with a large number of students, is there a way to kind of automatically grade it? When lots of students posting and then lots of students writing responses to those posts, to automatically count that up for participation, or anything that you've seen? Right now I just do it in the forums and it's just text and everything, so this would be better, but I didn't know as far as grading.
I wouldn't recommend you doing this every week. This is just, this is really for students to get a space and feel seen and heard, that they have some input. So I would do it maybe once or twice a semester. And if you wanted to do it in class, and Laura does it with us when she does her training, she would throw up a Padlet and say, do a format that's like a shelf, and say, put some ideas about, and she'll give us a prompt, right? So that would count as class participation, right? I would even give 5 points, toward that. But this would, my feeling is that yes, it would be a lot of work and you can't grade it automatically. Usually this was an experiment to see if the students could do a group project for the final project, to see how people were working. So this was a relatively low stake assignment. And, those who work really well, they got 10 points, they felt fired up, and they're like, okay, I can work in a group and I can do this, right? So that's how I used it as a teaching tool. But unless you want them to do something in class with any format, you could do a wall. You might have a prompt, I don't know what discipline you are in, and ask them to share an image or a sound or something, and then get the discussion going.
Okay, thanks. I'll have to play with it.
And then this is something that I did. Actually, my graduate students came up with this exercise, and what they did was they created their own Padlet. And they gave students a prompt, and the prompt was, tell us about a daily sound, or, sort of find an image and put it on this Padlet. And then tell a story about that sound. Like, why are you thinking about that particular sound or that particular image? And as you see, there are like so many daily objects, like, here is a thread and needle, here is sunflowers, a boombox. And people started to share, and this is again sort of, I was teaching at the graduate level, so not that many students, but I think you can do it with students up to like 30 people in the class, because they can do group work. And then you can see, like, as people shared their stories, the students themselves started to make connections. So do you see these little like lines? So they created connections among their stories and analysis, because the whole exercise was an analytical exercise. It's like, what kinds of daily objects and, daily sounds inform, larger historical events. And what happened was that was what the reading was about. They were reading a book called Re-Encounters, and people started to, voluntarily go to the page and say, oh, and so-and-so says this here. And this is, I think, what they meant by re-encounters. And it was a new kind of theory that was, intervening in some other well-known theories. So at first, the students were processing the materials through what they know. And then when they did this exercise, they were like, oh my God, like, that's not it at all. And it is this new thing that we are trying to think about. So it was really a very, rewarding experience for me, that students came to that conclusion. And it's just, I think, great for student engagement, and I think it's a pretty versatile tool that can be even used in larger classrooms.
That's so great to think of it as, it doesn't have to be just a classic assignment. It can be something to just almost like a warm up to another assignment, or just some sort of low stakes thing that they're not so inhibited from posting something because they're worried they'll get it wrong, but maybe just something to kind of really get thinking, and then they get relaxed and start making connections. And that's a great story. And it's that kind of thing that the tool, the tool does help, but it's really how you used it that made the whole thing very, very effective and successful. So, it's not the tool, it's what, it's the design behind the tool, that what you're going to use it for. So be thinking, everyone, of like some way you could use it. There's an infinite amount of ways, right? So I don't know if anybody has any more questions about Padlet. We have just a couple minutes. Monisha, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, have you used Flipgrid in any of your classes?
I have not.
Okay.
That's
just
one
curious.
I haven't used. But I can say a little more about the grading, Laura. Sometimes the Padlet is part of the participation grade. And I know that when we went online and, we were teaching online, we had to rethink conventional participation, right? And I give up to, especially once we went to the online format, about 20% for participation. Previously, I did not, because there was no way sometimes to count attendance or what, especially in an asynchronous format, like what would attendance mean? Sometimes it's part of my participation grade, and sometimes it's like a real assignment. And they could get anywhere from 10 to 15 points. And they know that the quality has to be good. They know that the text that they put in has to be good. I did a pretty, this was again a two-step assignment. They did a forum post where I asked them to share a resource that shows the ways in which COVID-19 has hit different groups in different ways, right? It could be racial minorities, it could be Native Hawaiians, it could be, women. And again, people shared it on forums, but you know that the forums in a big class is a lot and you can only require students to read that many posts. So then I created a Padlet for them to share, you know, the websites and the research that they did. And then write a little commentary, you know, as to what, you know, what they found out, like what was their big takeaway from their research. So that sort of, again, you know, build their research skills, because they had to figure out which websites are reliable and which are not, because with COVID-19, you could get a lot of junk. So, you know, we did a lot of learning how to do research in the process.
Great. I was just thinking of other uses too. I've heard some faculty, you know, when you were talking about low stakes, it can be introductory, you know, introductions. It can allow for bonding, and that we have a Padlet that was created by past bootcamp participants with icebreaker ideas on a Padlet, but a lot of them were so creative, and we have that linked somewhere. But there's a lot of like storytelling you can evoke, and then people can really learn about each other based on some of these icebreakers, and they can become pretty powerful, and they can go beyond like the bonding that you could even have face to face. A lot of times in a face-to-face class, you don't talk about like a story from when you were a child, and you don't really go into that kind of level. But with this asynchronous method, you feel a little more safe, you know, telling a story about something that somebody else might relate to, or that maybe they would have sat way across the room and you would have never spoken to them. So there's a lot of neat things you can do, and it is a powerful motivator for students to meet and learn others in an online class, especially fully asynchronously, and it motivates them to come back. It motivates them to keep going if they can meet other people and not feel as isolated, so to speak. But I've also seen faculty use it as, especially right in the middle of the pandemic, like using it as a weekly check-in, like, how's it going? Like she would have, something that's going great for you, something that wasn't so great, and, or, just some columns on that shelf, and they could just put like a great thing that happened or not so great thing. And that was just like off on the side on Laulima, and it was, kind of optional, but faculty reported that the students were using that a lot just to kind of vent, and just those little things. And Nicole did a presentation earlier about mental health and relaxation and anxiety and things like that, and having that space, like Padlet could serve as that space for some of that kind of stuff that has nothing to do with the grade. It's for students, really, that kind of thing. So there's just so many things you can do with it. So I look forward to seeing what everybody comes up with. And yeah, so I think at this point, we'll just, if anybody doesn't have any more questions, let me check for that first. We so much appreciate you coming, Monisha. I know you're busy, and your examples are great, and it really just helps, pull that into reality, like how you could really use it. And your use of it has been really great, and I know your students probably love it. So appreciate you showing that to everyone. And we had a lot of people who couldn't come today, but I am recording it, so I did capture your presentation, so they'll be able to see it too. So thank you for coming.
Thanks, Laura, and it's all the credit goes to you.
Oh, no. Thank you, but no.
Bye.
Bye. And Nicole and Vanessa, any final comments?
Yeah, I wanted to bring up something actually. I'm gonna share my screen real quick for Laulima. I wanted to point this out to you folks. So just to go over the certification tasks again, the Hive Mind is where you'll create your lesson page, and that's it, right? And then, so that's the first task. The second task I wanted to point out, we have a bit of a mix up here, but realizing it now, the Padlet is here and the sorry, the Padlet's here, the flip is here. But for the flip assignment, I wanted you folks to, so you're creating the flip activity in your account, right? You're gonna keep track of it on here because we can't access your, personal account. So in order for us to know that you've completed it, we'd like you to, this document is open to you. You can just put in your name and the link to your flip activity the topic, and then you can go ahead and review someone else's topic. We just wanted to point that out because for me and Vanessa, we have to check that you've completed the task, and then you can also see others here as well and respond to them. Okay. And
Thank
then
you.
for Padlet, yes. For Padlet, you'll create the Padlet activity or discussion in your own CSS Padlet account, and then you're also going to post it here. We have a Padlet of Padlet. So actually, quickly, I'm going to show you folks how to do that in case you haven't done it before. When you post, you click on the 3 dots to add on. You can make sure you put your name in here, and you click on this Padlet, and that's where it'll show all the ones that you've accessed before. You can select the one that you want to attach, and it'll attach it for you. I just wanted to point that out. That's how we're going to keep track of. That's how we're going to keep track of your folks' assignments for the next couple of days, and then we're going to meet again on Friday. If you folks can make it, hopefully Friday at noon. We're going to have a sync session covering Unit 2. That's all I had to say. So if anyone has any questions, go ahead. Yes.
Just one small question of clarification. With regard to these 2 apps and the accounts, is that information in the Laulima instructions, or we have to request an account from Laura separately, or?
Yes, for Padlet, right? But Laura, for Padlet, but not for Flip. Is that
Right.
correct?
Yes. So Flipgrid is actually a free for all educators, and it's just free in general. I think Microsoft or Bill Gates, I'm not sure, bought it when it was early on, and they just want to provide it for everyone for their use. So when you just go, there are instructions for signing up for an educator Flip account. That's what you'll get to create your own Flip, and then you can set up your assignment, and then just to respond to our intro Flipgrid, you don't need anything. You're just doing it like a student. So you're just clicking on the link to experience it from the student side. And then the Padlet, if you want to use the non-free version, yeah, we've got some helper videos in here that go through all of these kinds of steps and how to set it up and everything. And yeah, but reach out if you get stuck on any one particular step.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Here's the questions area.
Yeah, and so a lot of what we do, we try to do some meta kinds of things. So like we'll put that comments tool in there for you to ask questions. As one part of that is to show you that you can do that, like if you ever wanted to do that yourself. So we try to include a few things that if you see like, oh, how did you do that? We'll also show you at any time if you want to replicate something that you see that you want to try to do in your course. I'll look forward to seeing your intros on Flip and seeing what you come up with, and we'll see you Friday. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Have a great
Take
day.
care.
Cool.
Bye-bye. See you
Bye.
Friday.